Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the T29. It's a Tier 7 American heavy tank. It's located on the north spawn of Lakeville. This one's under the command of ProvoBob, and yes, he's on the Australian server, as the kangaroos on the side of his turret normally indicate. Okay, let's see which gun he's loaded onto this tank. The 105? Yes, it is the 105, the top gun. 320 Alpha, 198mm of pen with standard rounds. With the APCR, it goes up to 245. This is generally regarded by most players as the best Tier 7 heavy tank. It's got good angled armour, but it's actually the fact that it does have fairly good gun depression as well, 10 degrees, which enables you to take on enemies over ridgelines. The turret's very strong as well. As you know, it was one of a series of tanks that were actually made, including the T30, the T32, the T29 of course, and the T34, all based on the same premise, so basically similar hull, but different guns and different turrets. Of course, the T30 in the game has the 155mm, the T34 is the 120mm, the T32 actually has a 90mm if I remember correctly, and the T29 actually has the 105, but you can have variations of the different guns in different versions of each of the tanks. Of course, you start out with the stock gun and work your way up. Anyway, with the 105mm, it's pretty potent with 320 Alpha. And remember, this is Tier 7, not Tier 8 or Tier 9. Of course, the 105mm guns do actually feature quite heavily later on during the game at Tier 9 and Tier 10, because it's quite a good standardised gun, although most of them feature the British version, the L7A1, which is extremely good at penetrating targets. And our first target's turned up. It's an M4A3E2, which, as you know, is the Sherman Jumbo. Sitting in that area, but he doesn't want to get attacked by a T29, as he knows it would hurt a lot. He's just hiding around the corner. One up his rear and a high roll. 327. Yeah, he can't take many more rounds like that before he'd be out the game, and yes, he is out the game now. He lingered too long in the church area and paid for it. Okay, what have we got around here? Well, the Hellcat, it's got no armour really, so to speak. It's really just to stop shell splinters and bullets, and so he couldn't resist that shell. And we're loaded, and there's, oh, it didn't kill him, and he did get a 90mm round through our armour because ProvoBob didn't side scrape out, he actually just poked out. And that one bounced off the T43 because he's got nice angled armour. The Hellcat's gone. And he's still pushing out. The reload time by the book is 10.93. ProvoBob's got 11.17. So I suspect that he's actually modified the tank in such a way that reduces the reload time, increases the reload time rather, but improves the handling of the gun instead. Pumps one into the strip, but he does take a 75mm round in return, and that one hit the tracks. Okay, they've lost the T43. Now you can side scrape on the strip. Oh, the strip's disappearing. He's trying to get away, and that's the end of his game. So he's got his first kill, and they've got the town. The enemy's trying to push up the valley as fast as they can. I suspect that some of the enemy are waiting. I briefly had to stop the replay there because I lost my sound connection. I'm having terrible trouble with my microphone just recently, so I thought rather than lose the commentary, I'd stop the game just temporarily so we can get that fixed. And I've now put it back in. He got one round into the Super Hellcat. It's another high roll for 358. Can you get... No, the guy's gone behind the building. You're not going to get him from here. No, just keep moving forwards. He can't do anything, and he's gone. We're 2 up on the enemy now, and oh, the enemy does have a Scorpion. That's the tier 7 version, 90mm gun, and that shot gives him potentially the high caliber. Now you can take those guys apart. He's using APCR, he doesn't need to. It's one of the things about this gun with the 105, you just really don't need to use the premium ammo, especially when you're top tier. As soon as you're top tier, forget about premium, just use standard and you'll earn nicer loads of credits. I think we have to wean ProvoBob off the premium ammo sometime. The enemy have managed to get north of the bottleneck, and so we do now need to push now, get towards the cap as quickly as we can. They've got a KV-220 and the Striv 74. The Striv can pen us. Oh, it's a KV-2, not a KV-220. Okay, so he does actually feature a potential danger to us. Of course, he might have the dirt gun, or he does have the dirt gun, so let's see if he's using premium ammo. And he's gone. Okay, so now we can just push ahead. There's no need to cap. We can just drive straight north. The Super Hellcat's going around to intercept the enemy from the other side. Trouble is, we've got to go up the valley, and going up the valley is going to... Oh, he's decided he's just going to cap. Well, the other guys will go up the valley. Hopefully they'll do the necessary. ProvoBob's already got enough, I think, for a high caliber. 2,452 hit points, but he's decided he's not going to get any more hit points. He's leaving it to the others. I think they obviously know that the more damage you do to the enemy, if you can kill all the enemy tanks, you actually end up with a bonus for killing all the enemy. And unfortunately, we just lost the SU-14-1, but they lost their KV-2, which now just leaves the VK-3001P, and he just died. So this game is a victory. You can see how strong that turret is. And here's the end of battle results. That's the second class tank of ProvoBob in the T29. He also got his first mark of excellence during that game, as well as a fire for effect for doing more damage than hit points to his own vehicle. And he got a high caliber for dealing the most damage in the game overall, and his win rate was 3,255. I would say, actually, probably he needs to side scrape more rather than just poke his front out. Because, of course, if you poke the front out, they can put a round through the drive wheel and immobilize you. And so it's much better to side scrape out, because even if you get hit on a side scrape, it's only going to either be eaten by the tracks, or and that will leave you with your ability still to hit the enemy. But if you get caught with your front poking out, but without the gun aiming on target, you're not going to be able to get any more shots off on the enemy. And so basically you are very, very vulnerable. So, yes, you need to practice more side scraping, Bob, as much as you can. Look at the team scores. We can see, yes, he did get the highest damage, 2,452. Second highest damage went to the Cromwell B, 2,167. And he picked up a Leather Slaves medal for killing 2 enemy tanks or tank destroyers that were 1 tier higher than him. And the third highest damage in the game, oh, let's get it up, was the ARL-44 in the enemy team with 1,481. Leaving our SU-14-1 to pick up 1,427, so he was having a bit of fun during that game as well. When it came to kills, it was the Cromwell and the T3485M. They both got 4 kills apiece, so they're top scorers. 2 kills went to the VK-3001P on the enemy team. ProvoBob only got 1 kill, which actually puts him in joint third place with all the others who actually got a kill. And when it came to base XP, it's the Cromwell B who did the best with 1,113. 883 went to ProvoBob, and 698 went to the Striv M4257. He fired only 11 rounds in this game, but they were all premium rounds, I'm afraid, so yes, it does cost him quite a bit. 9 direct hits on the enemy, 8 penetrations. You will get decent pen, but if you're top tier, you really don't need to use premium ammo. 2,452 hit points of damage, of which 683 were at more than 300 meters. So he did do a bit of long range shooting, but most of it was at close range in the city. 6 hits received from the enemy, only 2 of which actually penetrated, and those were ones which actually went for the hull, which is slightly weaker than the rest of the tank. 4 non-penetrations, those are the ones that hit the turret. 445 hit points of damage blocked by armor. 6 enemy vehicles damaged, 1 killed. So he might have got a Confederate if he'd actually didn't take that kill. But there again, you know, as needs must. 232 hit points of damage assistance, and he got 64 capture points in the cap. He really didn't need to cap, but he decided he was going to anyway. 41,478 credits for the battle, but look at that cost of premium ammo and the consumables. He actually ended up with a loss of 37,093 credits for the game on a premium account. He could have made a massive profit, actually, if he'd used standard ammo. 25 bonds for a mission achievement. 1,324 XP times 2 for the first victory, 2,649 experience points altogether. So yet again, I think we need to show Bob the way to actually wean him off the premium ammo and just use standard ammo. There are some players who play only with standard ammo in the game, and I have put up a few of their replays. And even though they sometimes do need the premium, they don't use it, and they manage to survive quite well. In Bob's case, I think on some of these tanks, they've got decent pen regardless of whether they use premium or not. So it might be better for him to practice with standard ammo and only standard ammo and leave all the premium stuff alone and just play it as it is, because it's got decent enough pen. In fact, you can check the pens on these tanks before you actually start the game and see for yourself if they've got enough penetration to actually do the job. If we look at the let's have a look at the armor. You can see the armor on the hull is fairly weak, but the turret is very, very strong. As you can see here, 216 millimeters impacted armor on the turret there, and that area of the front of the turret coming out at 269. You can see the bridge wing really doesn't actually do anything, or the rangefinder rather, that's what those things are. You can penetrate through that cupola there, because it's only 178 millimeters impacted armor, but because it's so well angled, it's coming out 383. But if you look a little further up, you can see at the top of the cupola, it's 51 millimeters. So it's only coming out 53 in total. You can penetrate that bit. So if you want to take out one of these directly from the front and go for a weak spot, the top of the cupola on the T29 is a weak spot. The other alternative is, if this thing is hulled down, if it's not hulled down rather, is to actually aim for the hull, and there's various weak spots. 70mm there for the machine gun port. You could go for the driver's port instead, although it's only 167 there with 122 impacted armor. Lower plate is a weak spot, 70, coming out at 170 with the angling. The upper plate is 102mm impacted, coming out for 146. The sides of the vehicle, 76mm coming out 86. Size of the turret, 127mm coming out about the same, because it's although it's got slight rounding, it is still fairly thick. And the bustlers, well, here, well, that's where the commander is, and that's 127mm, and it's fairly flat, so you should be able to go through the sides. And if you're going from the top of it is 38mm, 48.9, engine deck 38mm coming out at 43. So yes, you can take these out if you can get behind them on the sides. Other than that, aim for the cupola. If you can get the hull, go for the hull. If you can get the lower plate, even easier still. Let's have a look at the live model. You can see the turret is very strong, the weak spot's showing, the hull's showing at the front, so that is a weak spot. So if you pick the right gun, if you're up against the right gun, you can see the 90mm shell can get through the hull, and that's why the Hellcat got one shell in, because he aimed his 90mm in the right spot. If he'd actually had a 76mm, the hull would not have been a weak spot for him, and he probably would not have penned as easily. But with a 105mm, the hull is weak, And you can see from the sides you can get him as well. There you go. So let's have a quick look at the modules. Okay, in this one we can see driver up front, right hand side, driver's mate left hand side with the machine gun. We've got the gunner on the left hand side with the loader behind him. I've got another loader on the other side if it's got the 105mm gun, and there's that tank commander sitting like a king on his throne, with his head up in the cupola, waiting for it to be blown off by the enemy tank. He has got ammo racks either side of him, which of course the loaders are pulling out of the racks, and the radio is directly behind the tank commander as well. The engine sandwiched between two fuel tanks, and there's a big ammo rack in the floor of the tank, but it's difficult to get at. You're much better off either going for the rear of the tank to actually get the engine, or to go for the ammo rack in the bustle if you can get that instead. If you are facing one of these from the front, as I say, go for that cupola. If you can't get the hull, go for the cupola. You should be able to pen the cupola and take out his commander. So congratulations to ProvoBob for getting another first mark of excellence on one of his vehicles. But please, please use standard ammo on the T29. It's so good. It's got decent pen. You should be able to get through an enemy vehicle with 198mm of pen of standard ammo. So please use premium, standard rather than premium in the future. And I think you'll earn a nice, decent profit. If you enjoyed that replay, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.